Sean Patrick Shaul is here. Apologies at the top. I'm sorry. We, sometimes we go long on the show. I should have given you a heads up. I did a terrible job at that. I was on a roll. But thank you. You have an amazing music. First of all, why am I spacing on the name of the film where I had you on the show?
Cover Your Ears. Oh, I'm sorry.
No. Previously.
Fuck You All. The Uwe Boll
Okay.
story.
Sean did I was just spacing on that. Yes, I guess we might as well just say it now. The documentary about Uwe Boll called Fuck You All. Sean is the director of, and oh my God, Sean Patrick Shaul, that doc is so good. We ended up actually having Uwe Boll on the show. He was on the show. What a great guy. And before we get to your new documentary, Fuck You All, which is the actual title. Sometimes I see it as F You All, but tell us about that doc and the fallout from it. It's one of the best documentaries about a filmmaker where you really learn about Uwe. Tell us about that before we talk about your new movie.
That was a great experience. Just hanging out with Uwe for that long was interesting, to say the least. And it was great. Got to talk to a lot of cool people and really learn about how crazy Uwe is and how his career is so unique.
Well, it's weird because he pivoted to became a restaurateur, and then he looks like he's getting back into making films. I hope he brings back his boxing career to box, because he boxes film critics. I always thought that was chef's kiss brilliant. So it's a great doc. I'm sure it's on VOD or Tubi or one of those. Is it?
It's out there somewhere. Yeah. It's searchable.
Yeah, so check out F You All. Really fantastic documentary. But your new documentary is called Cover Your Ears. It's a music doc that I watched. Actually, I watched it a while back because you and I have been going back and forth on trying to get you on the show. So thank you for sticking in there. Tell us about the new doc, Cover Your Ears.
Cover Your Ears looks at music censorship in the music industry, obviously, and just over the last 100 years. So everything from the fear of jazz to the birth of rock and roll, Elvis's hips, the hippie revolution, punk, birth of MTV into gangster rap, and current day.
This perfectly ties into our topic. We were talking about censorship in video games, and I got in a public fight with a politician in the 90s about censorship and gaming. That was also at a time in the 90s with Tipper Gore, and this is covered in your doc, where they were trying to censor music at that time. This was in music is there's no digital. It's just you buy things on what? You buy it on cassette, CD, or an album. I mean, the doc does a really good job of going through all of the music censorship through the ages. The whole thing of not showing Elvis from the waist down, right? Can you talk about all of that? It's just unbelievable. We think that there's censorship battles being fought today. They've always been fought. It's crazy. It's just the players change.
Yeah, and I mean, I kind of hate the term, but cancel culture of nowadays, people think that's a new idea, but Elvis's hips, for instance, they showed his hips his first 2 appearances, and then enough people complained that by his 3rd appearance, the hips weren't allowed. So public backlash has always been around in the music industry.
It is frustrating because the public backlash, if you really look at this, is, we could say the words cancel culture. When you really look at it, it's a vocal minority. Terry Ricolta, who tried to get Married with Children banned from Fox, only increased the ratings. Do you think that there's almost what they call the Streisand effect? Whenever something's about to be banned, it actually just makes it more famous?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, those parental advisory stickers that came out in the late 80s, those just kind of pointed listeners to the albums that they wanted to find. People, it's not like those songs didn't exist anymore. They were just labeled. And to a lot of people, myself included, growing up around that time, I was like, oh, those are the cool albums.
It's weird. It has a different effect. We've got over 1,300 people watching us live on YouTube. Smash that like button, subscribe to the channel. I really do appreciate it. We've got a lot of questions too, so we get through some of these questions. from the audience. Let's
Great.
go to that. Starting with from Rumble. Got a lot of how many people are watching us on Rumble? Love the crowd at Rumble.
35.
Abe Ellis 24. What has been the everlasting impact on the music industry by Tipper Gore besides the explicit warning?
Well, I think she was the first one to kind of bring it to a Senate hearing, where politicians got involved with the music industry and what was being said, and it extending beyond just free speech. But aside from that, I mean, she was a giant target for a lot of like metal artists and punk artists. So there was another ripple effect she didn't really plan on, but she ended up on a lot of album covers and in a lot of songs.
Well, that's something of an impact, right? I mean, let's it is what it is. Let's see. Question here from Krizik says, question for Sean. Does the doc cover why he chose to engage with his critics in boxing matches? That's about F you all.
I think he just wanted to see if he could. And enough people thought that it was going to be a joke, and he trained for it and beat the shit out of these people.
God, it's such a good doc. I got to watch it again. I love docs about filmmakers. I find it really interesting. I mean, some of it's inside baseball, but it's such a weird job. I don't need to tell you that. Solomon Thornton says, greetings, Sir Sean. I guess you've been knighted. What
Nice.
got you into doing documentaries?
Originally, I just dropped out of film school and took my tuition money and wanted to make a film and knew I couldn't make a feature-length narrative film for that money. So decided to do a doc. I kind of fell backwards into it. And the first one I made was on the singer of a punk band and kind of a legendary punk band here in Canada. And the film did pretty well. And I just kind of took the money I made from that, made the next one, so on and so forth. And now this is my 7th one, I believe.
Well, the other thing about that is people forget, like, documentaries are storytelling. I mean, it's the same. It's not, I'm not going to say it's, you know, it's different from narrative film. But when I go to a film festival, the movies I gravitate towards and tend to be better are always the docs. Always the docs. Narrative features are hard to they're hard to like do well on a low budget level. Whereas a documentary, it doesn't matter at all. So there you go. More questions here from Rumble. A. Dallas 24. While Dee Snider became the face of musical freedom in the 80s, who do you feel is carrying that flag today?
I think the torch has been passed to hip hop. In the film, we deal with kind of at the end of the film, and nowadays we look at lyrics being entered into trials. There's a trial going on right now with Young Thug and YSL Records, where his lyrics are being brought in as evidence in a RICO case. So, I mean, I think that's kind of the next frontier for censorship in music is legal action.
Wow.
So, yeah, I think the torch has been passed to hip hop, whether they like it or not.
Ryan Landis asks, does your film cover early metal and the satanic panic that the media ran with?
Yes. That was one of the most fun sections to deal with.
Well,
it's
cover so much.
It's so ridiculous too, the satanic panic. Like, people were worried that, there was backwards messaging in albums, and if you listen to an Aussie record, you would, sacrifice somebody. It was a crazy time, and that's kind of what brought on the Tipper Gore PMRC era.
Wow.
Yeah, we used to have a guy come in to our youth group at church talking about Satanism and in rock and roll. The one question I have is, from a rights standpoint, is a music documentary more difficult or more challenges than a film documentary?
I mean, both have a lot of property that you have to clear or rely on fair use for, but this film, especially in my career, was a nightmare for clearances. There were hundreds and hundreds of instances that we had to go through with a fine-tooth comb with our lawyers. But luckily, there is fair use laws that protect documentary filmmakers.
Well, to talk about that for a second, I made a documentary last year, and again, it was the clearances. You have this whole spreadsheet, and then you're debating about, well, how many seconds can this shot be? It has to be when you get what you think is your picture lock. I'm sure there's just like a whole other. This should go to anyone out there who's an aspiring documentary filmmaker. What you need to know: fair use. Look up the fair use laws. I actually hired the lawyer who wrote the fair use argument to work on my film, because I wanted the best to be able to legally release the movie. What are some tips you could give filmmakers about that?
I think that's just it. Before you even embark on your documentary, familiarize yourself with the fair use law and get the right legal team. It's worth spending the money because you can finish your entire film and then run into these little hangups that will completely tank your film and make it unreleasable.
And from Rumble, 8Ellis24 says, what is your opinion on the recent trials of YNW, Melly, and Young Thug? Yeah, I'm not cool. I don't know what why that look to include rap lyrics as evidence in the case. Wow.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was speaking to earlier about. That's the next frontier for censorship. It is a strange gray area, and it's an ongoing trial, and I guess we'll figure out where it lands. But yeah, it does raise some questions. If these are all examples, not to do with these trials, but if someone's murdered that you've been writing rival songs about, and it's done in the same way that you write a rap about, can that be entered into trial? And I don't think it's a open and shut case either way. I think it's quite interesting, and I've been following the cases that he mentioned.
And just to right here, we got Thomas Pickett says, just bought it. Thanks, Solomon Thornton. And I'm still hyped for this doc. So there you go. Getting some
Great.
love there.
Love it.
Sean, thank you so much for being on the show today. I apologize about it. It's I blame myself. I have to blame myself. But thank you so much. Cover Your Ears is now available. Tell us where people can get it.
Amazon Prime, Apple TV Plus, Vudu, YouTube, everywhere. Search it, it's there.
And make sure to let us know about your next documentary. Sean, thank you so much for being on the show. We appreciate it. And thank you, man. Keep fighting the good fight, because
thanks, Chris.
We need more recruits in this area. So
I agree.
There you go. All right. Take care. Have a great rest of your day. Later.
Thanks.
Bye.